welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and your co-host today is Bobby. Welcome back, Bobby.
Hello, thanks for having me, Daniel, and welcome, Brokettes. We're going to have an awesome episode this week.
If this is your very first episode of the show, the way the format goes is we go through a bunch of news. That's most of the episode. And then we head on over and end it with the Brokette Block, which is the more personal side of the podcast, where you get to know Bobby and I a little bit better, what's been going in our week, the reasons why we're broke this week or since you last heard us, what we're playing, reading, or watching. So let's jump right in and explore sector number 525. So we do have some Nintendo news, as on November 4th, just in time for the holiday season, the Nintendo Switch OLED model Pokemon Scarlet and Violet Edition will be available at select stores, and it features art inspired by the upcoming Scarlet and Violet games. So the legendary Pokemon Koraidon and Miraidon are featured on the glossy front side of the White Systems dock, and then there's a Pokeball that's featured on the back. The controllers, the Joy-Cons, which do match the main colors of Scarlet and Violet, feature the school emblems of the Naranja Academy and Uva Academy. And the back of the screen itself does have the purple and orange, and it features the 3 starters. And it is set for a suggested retail of $359.99.
Yeah, this thing looks slick. I think it looks really cool. I was impressed when I first saw it. And I was really looking forward to pre-ordering it. I was like, oh, okay. I need to save some money because I'm going to have to get this thing and find out where am I going to pre-order this from? Where am I going to stake my waiting game for this? And then I found out it was an OLED.
And that was the problem, right?
Wah, wah, don't care.
Now, You are not as big of a Pokemon collector as some of the other guys like Scott. So you don't go and collect all of the Pokemon systems as you see them, right?
No. I don't. I have the Let's Go Switch. Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. I have that Switch, and I bought it because I thought it was cool, and I didn't have a Switch. So that was my first Switch, and that's been my Switch. So I have that one. Really cool. But I don't try to collect all sorts of other types of systems or controllers or anything like that. I'm not a huge collector when it comes to Pokemon. I collect very specific things, and it's things that I work with. That's about it.
So not even as a system to flip on eBay or anything like that, probably not worth. Well, actually it will be. You said it might be underprinted on Discord. You were talking with Scott, and it looks like, so anyone that's hoping to get this, you are traditionally the insert here hunter. And if you were to try to get this system, what would you suggest for the Brokette core member on the other side? Because you were saying on Discord that it's going to be underprinted and it's going to be very much in demand.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to get. So if anybody's after this, you need to look for when pre-orders go live anywhere, which should be very soon. This game releases in November, so pre-orders should be going up this month. And there's going to be a Nintendo Direct, I believe, next week or the week after. So if that hasn't been publicly announced, well, now it has. You've heard it from me. There will be a Nintendo Direct very soon. So there's probably going to be some more details with Scarlet and Violet, and I'm pretty sure pre-order details for that system, which literally is going to be within the next week or two. Check your favorite retailer. Try to get in. If you can, try to stay away from. Don't waste your first option on GameStop, because that's not the right place to pre-order a system, traditionally speaking. You want to check with the Targets, the Best Buys, up north, Fry's. I think they're still in business. There's a couple other companies you want to use, but stay away from the GameStop. GameStop is an option, but don't have it your first.
You mentioned that there's going to be another Direct coming up. Is this going to be the last one of the year as far as a Nintendo Direct or a Pokemon Direct? Will there be 2 separate ones?
This should be... No. There'll be more Directs, but this Direct will feature on some upcoming stuff for the fall going into the winter. Mm-hmm. And they'll probably release more details on that system as far as that. And I'm still wondering where I thought they would do a special edition for the Switch Lite too, because it's so much easier for families to get into a Switch Lite. So I think we'll see a Switch Lite as well. That's my speculation. Maybe they'll be modeled off the two legendaries that are in a game. I forgot the names of the cover Pokemon for each game.
Koraidon and Miraidon.
You can ride on this dick.
Oh man, god damn it.
Got him.
You fucking got me. That's a good one. Shit, man. That is a good one. It's going to be a one that I'm going to be going after now moving forward.
That was for you, fans.
I'm gonna bring that up on Scott when I see him. Maybe on their stream tonight. That'll be fun. But we do have a lot of movie news this week and a little bit of drama at the Venice International Film Festival. At last Sunday's, Darren Aronofsky's The Whale premiered to a 6-minute standing ovation. So the film's lead, Brendan Fraser, was in tears during the ovation. The movie follows Charlie, who's a 600-pound man who tries to reconnect with his daughter, played by Stranger Things star Sadie Sink, years after having abandoned his family. It is set to premiere in the U.S. on December 9th. So longtime Brokettes know that Darren Aronofsky is my favorite director. Ever since The Fountain, that's when he got me. Even though I saw Requiem for a Dream, The Fountain is the one that really, I guess, like Zack Snyder put it, popped my cinema cherry. For The Fountain, it was one of those that, like, it was the first one that I'm like, oh, films can be studied and can be looked at. It's not just something to watch, it's something to think about. And it was because of his movie. And ever since all of that, I've been watching all of Aronofsky's movies, and I've liked all of them. So The Whale, it's looking like it's going to be another winner for him and for Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be emotional. He obviously had to do some method acting to be in that movie. So the fact that people love it, I mean, it's an emotional strand on him, I'm sure. And we'll find out when we see the movie. I'm really interested to see how Sadie's going to do. For those of you that are not aware, Sadie plays Max on Stranger Things. She was on season 3 and season 4. So she's a really good actor for a child actor. And she really held up season 4. I think she was the star of the show when it came to season 4. So we'll see how this goes. Should be a good movie. It's behind a good director.
And a lot of people are rooting for Brendan Fraser. The ongoing thing on Twitter is, I just want him to be happy because he has had a bit of a rough go. And I know when Batgirl got rightfully canceled by Zaslav, people were saying, oh, but Brendan Fraser, that's another role. And I was like, trust me, it would have hurt his career. Batgirl would have hurt him. From all that I've seen, he plays Firefly. He dies at the end of the movie. That it's nothing special as far as his role. The Whale, this is going to be the movie that is probably going to get him nominated for an Oscar, probably going to get a win at the Broscars, and it is going to elevate his career to, oh shit, he's now going to star in these other probably Academy Award nominated roles in the future.
Yeah, he's making a bit of a comeback. That's what everybody's saying. Like he's in another DC show. He's in Doom Patrol. It's just that he's, covered up the whole time. You can't see who the actor is. In Batgirl, he was going to play the alter ego, so you were going to be able to see him outside of the mask and whatnot. So this movie should do it.
And you had brought up before we started recording, and you might have seen it on Twitter to you on the other side, Harry Styles and Chris Pine apparently had a little bit of headbutting going on at the festival. And I know very little about it, but I did see the video in which Harry Styles appears to spit on Chris Pine as he's sitting down next to him. And previous to this spit, there was apparently, I'd seen a little thread of Chris Pine and the rest of the cast being very uncomfortable at the festival. So it sounds like there was some stuff going on already. And then when that happened, it really blew up. But that's as far as I know. I mean, do you have any other information about what exactly is happening with this film or with these cast?
No, it's really bizarre. And you look at it and it's hard to see him spitting on him, but like everybody says it is. I can't see it. It looks like it. I guess what doesn't help is Chris Pine's reaction, because
right,
if somebody spits on somebody, you're going to get up and you're throwing hands. Like,
oh yeah,
like he just had this like astounded, like, really, okay, huh, kind of look, So
like
I don't know.
disbelief.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he said something and he didn't move his lips, possibly. Like I don't know. And then so the internet was ablaze about Harry spitting on Chris. And then today there's like this diffusal of like, that didn't happen. That really didn't happen. No, he did not spit on him, whatever. They're trying to diffuse it. So I don't know what happened. I'm sure we'll get the maybe we'll get the truth eventually, but it's bizarre. Caught the internet on fire for at least a day.
You can find this
now
video
the
on
memes are
Twitter,
starting, which are great.
Yeah, just search Styles and Pine, and you will find that video. So you can decide for yourself if it looks like he is spitting on him. And I like Chris Pine. I do like him. So I feel like if Harry Styles did in fact spit on him, which I think based on his reaction, he looks down at something, like something fell down. Apparently, Harry Styles seems to be the one that is instigating this thing, it sounds like. And you may or may not be able to catch their movie at a local Regal, as Regal Cinema's parent company, Cineworld, is filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So we have a quote here from Mookie Greidinger, who's the chief executive officer of Regal Entertainment Group, who said, quote, "This latest process is part of our ongoing efforts to strengthen our financial position and is in pursuit of a deleveraging that will create a more resilient capital structure and effective business. This will allow us to continue to execute our strategy to reimagine the most immersive cinema experiences for our guests through the latest and most cutting-edge screen formats and enhancements to our flagship theaters," end quote. So for anyone confused, I used to think that filing for bankruptcy meant that you were done. This does not mean Regals are going away. This just means that they are in financial trouble, and sometimes companies are able to restructure their finances and make it back out, or repay whoever they need to their debts, pay them off, and then continue as business is normal. So this is an effort to that. This is not them necessarily shutting down their doors. They're, I think, counting on 2023 to hopefully be that year that helps them get out of this COVID world that we're still in, of people not, the fallout of people not 100% going to theaters, although Top Gun Maverick is doing incredible. So it sounds like we're starting to get there.
Yeah, you're correct. If a company files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, it doesn't mean that they're kaput. Does it happen? Sometimes, yeah, there's sometimes where Chapter 11 is the end. However, a company as big as Regal or Cineworld, they have lots of assets. They have different ways they can move around money. And what Chapter 11 allows you to do is it protects you from incoming debtors, allows you to strap yourselves in, and you can take a microscope and start consolidating, start canceling, start moving assets around and saving money so that you can, it does shed some debt. It removes financial pressure on the organization. So the jargon that you hear is, yeah, that's everything they're going to try to do. At the same point, it does hurt when you do that. So they have to come out strong in order to recover from the filing. So we'll see what they do. They're a big company. There's theaters everywhere, so they can probably close a few here and there. Like we have one locally here in Oviedo that probably needs to be closed. It's the only one in the area that hasn't been remodeled, so that's probably why it hasn't been remodeled. I know they went hard on the 4DX theaters that they installed. Those things are really expensive, so they might start removing some of those. So we'll see what they do. The movie theater landscape's a little awkward right now. Movies are coming back, and there's not a lot of movies. You got movies like Top Gun that are doing very well, and I think that a lot of that has to do with there's just not a lot of series to put out there to compete up against it. That's not saying Maverick's a bad movie. Not saying that at all. Just saying that there's less competition, and this is what happens. So you look at any Marvel movie is going to stick out like a sore thumb because there's nothing else to compete against it. Where you look a couple years ago, and there was a lot more movies out there to help money being spent by fans instead of just aiming at one movie. So it'll be difficult. I know AMC has been struggling as well, and Cinemark, and there's one other big one on the West Coast. They've all been struggling. So the industry as a whole has been struggling. So they're slowly coming back, and obviously this slow drip of everybody going back to the movies has finally hit Regal.
And I will go ahead. There's a couple things here that I want to touch on. One, I will defend Top Gun Maverick with there's movies out there. There's movies out there, but saying that there's no competition doesn't mean that, even if this was the only movie in theaters now with nothing else, doesn't mean that people are going to go see it. They could be the only movie out there, and doesn't mean people are going to have the want to check out Top Gun Maverick. I think it's because of the word of mouth of this movie is fucking incredible that people are coming out there. And we will talk about the the success of Maverick, but I think that some of these people, especially the ones that are upset that it topped Black Panther, are saying, well, that's what happens when you're in the summer and there's 3 months of no competition. It's like, come on. That's not an excuse.
That's not an argument. Black Panther's not even in the theaters right now, so that shouldn't be talked about. What they should be talking about is the other movies that are in the theaters that can't even come close to it, like Super Pets. Super Pets made what, $12 million?
It bombed.
And you had 2 major actors in that movie, and it was promoted. So that's a movie that was put out and didn't do any good. And then what other movies have come out? Nothing. Spider-Man for the second time. Nobody cares about that. It's only $3 to go see it.
They also did that Nope from the big director. What's his name?
He's not a big director. That movie sucked. Nobody cares about it. It didn't make any money. No, it's not Coogler. It's the guy that did the other horror movie. He's a comedian. I forgot his name.
Yeah, he did and he that was a nominated movie, I think. It did pretty well.
Oh, yeah, he got nominated for Oscar. Didn't win, but I just don't care for his style of movies.
Gotcha. What would you say to people that are now saying AMC needs to hop in and buy up all these theaters or some of these others? Because to me, it's like no one's in a position to buy up Regal. I think even though AMC is a meme stock right now and they have finances behind it, they're not about to take that money and start buying up more theaters. I think that'd be the dumbest thing for anyone to do. So for people to be saying that's the solution, I don't see that happening at all.
No, and you don't invest in bad stocks, and movie theaters are bad stocks right now. And the only reason why AMC has money and strength is because everybody was memeing on them, so they made money off a meme. It's just like GameStop. GameStop's still open because of that big GameStop thing that happened a year ago. It was a meme.
Right.
So they that same group rolled over and did that to AMC. So AMC's got liquid now because of people memeing on their stock and making money off of it. It's quite hilarious, but technically AMC was about to go bankrupt too. It's just that the meme took off and their stock rose. So that's how that got solved. And no, nobody should be buying up any of these movie theaters. Like, let them do their thing. If they start consolidating, let them consolidate. I don't think they'll be able to. I think the FTC is going to rule that as a monopoly because there's only 3 large chains in the US. So you start eliminating those. That's easy territory for monopolization. I don't know how they're going to do. It's weird.
If you are currently staying at home, you're probably watching a lot of streaming services like Netflix, and one of their big shows was Arcane. And this animated series, based on the video game League of Legends, officially won an Emmy for Outstanding Animated Program during the Creative Arts Emmys presentation. So Arcane was up against some of the regulars each year, like Bob's Burgers, Rick and Morty, The Simpsons, and Marvel's What If. The first season of Arcane is currently available to stream on Netflix, and the second season has been officially announced. I know the other host on here, Millennial Mike, was thrilled and said that it deserves all of the awards that it gets. And I got to tell you, Arcane, while the story itself is, for me, it wasn't the strongest, the animation is absolutely outstanding and something that should be recognized.
Yeah, I haven't watched this. It's on my list. I will watch it eventually. I just haven't gotten to it. I've seen some clips. The animation looks great, so it doesn't surprise me that it would win an Emmy. And I'm sure when it gets to season 2, it'll do just fine.
Very much looking forward to season 2. I do think it's kind of funny that The Simpsons, Bob's Burgers, all of these are usually always there every year for like their one episode that was the best of that season. So it's kind of nice that something new like Netflix's Arcane came in and kind of refresh things, because I feel like it's always the same cartoons that win every year.
It's the same thing. Every year we see the same thing. And that's because some of these shows have been going on for so long, especially The Simpsons. So the fact that they're still even mentioned, even nominated is pretty cool, but it's tiresome at the same point.
We talked a little bit about Top Gun Maverick. It did reach a new milestone as it became the highest selling first week digital seller of all time. And it's already in the top 20 of digital sales ever. Tom Cruise did power the film to over $1.4 billion, now making it currently the 5th highest grossing film of all time, passing Black Panther. So it's hitting all kinds of records now on the digital storefront. That was one of the things that Paramount, you and I were talking about it at work. Paramount is being smart about this. They're saying it's still in theaters, but it's now available digitally as buy only for $19.99. not available to rent, not available on Paramount Plus. When asked when will it be available on Paramount Plus or to rent, they just shrugged and said it's available to buy for $20 right now or go to the theaters. They are being smart about how they play this because they know the demand is there, and why make $4 or $5 when you can make 20?
Good on them. They're controlling the narrative instead of just putting it straight to their service, which they know would help power some subs. But they also know those subs won't last that long. People sign up for the free trial or pay for the 1 month for $6 and watch that movie and then move on. And then they lose the subs. So they have a strategy. It's working. And they can control that narrative right now because they hold all the keys to the castle. So they're going to hold on to it till they see a lot of the sales waver. And once the sales have finally dipped or, they're not making as much, then they'll put it on Paramount. Who do they have to please? Did they commit to a date? No, they can put it on Paramount whenever they want. Hell, they can wait till next year. Just keep making it available to rent or buy, which right now you can't rent it. You can only buy it. So make that money. People will pay it. If you're going to pay $20 to rent it at home instead of going to a theater and seeing it for less, then that's on you.
My favorite part is someone did try to call them out and they said, you guys said it would be on Paramount Plus after 45 days of theatrical release. And they were like, yeah, but this is a premium release. So they just made up some bullshit category. And they're like, this is a premium release. So this is going to be a longer than 45-day window. And I'm like, you fucking geniuses.
Yeah, good on them. And if anybody's complaining about that, then you need to find something else to do. That's dumb.
I cannot wait to rewatch this film. I have it pre-ordered and it's on Blu-ray 4K, but it doesn't come out till November 3rd, I think. So I've got some time to wait. But once it comes out for rental or on Paramount Plus, that might be enough for me to pull the trip. Definitely Paramount Plus because we have the login. But if it's on rental first and it's only $4, I might do it just for the rewatch because I really enjoyed it and Palpa Kelly still needs to see it. We have some comic book news this week as Batman Day is happening this year on September 17th, and readers can pick up 2 free Batman Day comic books at their local comic shops that participate in comic shops. So the 2 books will be a reprint and a preview. So the first one will be Batman Hush #1, Batman Day Special, and Batman's Mystery Casebook, Batman Day Special Edition. So that second one, the casebook, is a preview to an upcoming novel, which is what they've been doing for the past couple of years to help promote their graphic novels, is they'll release a single issue that's basically the first 12 pages or so of the comic book. So before we go into what Cinemark is doing, has Batman Day been something that you've celebrated or gone out for in the past, since I know you've been a long-time collector?
I have in the past. They used to give a lot of stuff out at the stores back in the day, but they have really shortened that in recent years. I think one year they gave out Batman masks. That was cool. I remember that. I still have that. And there was pins, there was posters, things like that. And then every year it was less and less on the free stuff and then more on the, hey, here's a promo book. Or go visit your store. It's Celebrate Batman Day. Just go pick up a Batman book off the shelf kind of thing. Like, it kind of lessened. I think one year they changed it to Harley Quinn Day instead, which was weird. So it's like, okay, well, now we're not celebrating Batman. We're just celebrating a way for you to market something because what you're doing before didn't work. So I go if there's something cool and I'll go pick it up, especially if it's something I can read, not necessarily collect. So this Batman Hush #1 is neat. I don't know if it's the same exact book or reprint or it's altered. Either way, Hush is a good storyline. So
if you've never read Hush, it's a great way to preview into it. And most of the time, if they have it in stock, they'll have the graphic novel if it hasn't sold out by then. So if you've never read it, it's worth that trip out. But as Bobby was saying, the freebies have trickled down over the years. I used to work Batman Day and supply it and promote it at the local comic shop. The masks were amazing. But Batman Day and Halloween Comic Fest, both of those events they're not events that bring extra traffic to the store. Usually they hold them on Saturdays or weekends. And what it ends up doing is the families that are already showing up to the shop, it enhances their experience, right? Because they're like, oh shit, there's free stuff. Great. And then they'll they'll remember that and hopefully they'll come back and spend money, or they'll spend money that same day. Otherwise, it's the subscribers that you're going to get on Wednesday anyway. They come out for the free book and then they leave most of the time. Some shops, if they're smart, they'll run a Batman Day sale, 25% off graphic novels or 25% off anything with Batman. Then you can upsell them on trade paperbacks, hardcovers, maybe some back issues. If they're smart, they'll do that. But outside of that, Free Comic Book Day is the one that brings out all the crowds. Batman Day, Halloween Comic Fest, unfortunately, it's great that it enhances the experience for people, but it is not a moneymaker for comic shops. But I'm glad they're still doing it. I mean, Batman Day, if you're ever going to do an extra Free Comic Book Day event, Batman's the one to do it. I just don't expect them to continue it, especially next year, once Warner Brothers Discovery starts locking down on the publishing division and seeing, okay, why are we doing these extra things? How much was actually ordered for these free items? And I don't expect them to do it next year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the fact that the marketing has been cut down and over the years and we're getting less and less, there's a lot of changes going on, obviously. So we'll see what happens with the comic division. That's a big move because that affects a lot of the things they do or don't do when it comes to movies and multimedia. So there's a lot on the line there. It's a big question mark.
One of the newer things they are doing is teaming up with cinemas, and I know they have other plans for other countries, but since the majority of the Brocat Core do listen here in the US, Cinemark in particular will have exclusive showings of the following films at select locations as part of this special day. So these are countrywide: Batman Mask of the Phantasm at 2:15 p.m. local time, Batman 1989 at 4:30 p.m. local time, and Batman Returns at 7:25 p.m. local time. This is all once again on September 17th for Batman Day. And that right there is really cool because it's not often that you get to see some Batman classics on the big screen again. So if I weren't, I've worked weekends for over a decade now, but if I were one of those guys that had an office job and was off weekends, this might be something that would get me out there. Mask of the Phantasm in particular, to get to see that on the big screen again, especially with Leo. A lot of people have kids, and by now, when they first saw these movies and now they have kids, it's like, great, bring them out and celebrate Batman Day by showing them Batman on the big screen.
If they're smart, they're going to have little trailers before this, and it'll advertise to go to your local comic shop to celebrate Batman Day.
I would love if they had done that even years ago. I remember going to I can talk about it now because it was years ago and it's a whole different regime now. But when Dan DiDio and Jim Lee were doing the Rebirth initiative, they went around the nation to select cities and they invited comic shops, 2 representatives, I think it was, from each comic shop to come out and go to these. It wasn't a dinner, but they had snacks, they had drinks, and they would give a presentation about what DC Rebirth is. So they would get down and talk to retailers and say, this is why you should order high on us. This is what Rebirth is about. I know sales have dipped. They're at the low point since we started the New 52, but this is why you should trust us. And Doomsday Clock is going to be a big deal eventually. DC Rebirth #1 was that issue that they were really trying to get retailers to order. And at this event, someone did ask, how come there aren't more things for Free Comic Book Day, for these giveaway events? Why aren't there more things in theaters why don't you support your local comic shop? And DiDio did say that shops have the option of paying to have those ads, but that otherwise it is a huge expense for the comic company, that it's not something that they're able to justify to the higher ups. Someone also asked, at the time Arrow was really big, they're like, how come you don't have a Mel showing, hey, the latest issue of Green Arrow is out at your local comic shop, holding it there in commercials or whatever, make sure to pick it up. And again, he said that would be the comic division paying the television division, which is 2 different tenths of the same company, but really they have their own budgets. And it's not as easy as, hey, Steven, can you just put this book up and we'll film it? They unfortunately have to go through a lot of legal work. They have to pay Steven, and it ends up costing more than it's worth for a lot of that. And it just kind of opened my eyes a lot to, man, I wish they could do all of these great things, but business is business. And then unfortunately, it just costs so much, even if you're paying, one from the left pocket to the right. And it sucks.
Yeah, that stuff's expensive. I remember you bringing that up in the past. It's wild to think about how much money is exchanged even within a same company and how much red tape there is. It's unfortunate because on the surface you think it's a simple marketing technique that could help both arms from the same company, but it just doesn't work that way, unfortunately.
The most I've seen in the past, and I haven't seen it anymore, were cast members from the CW shows holding up comics or trade paperbacks, and that I've seen, and that probably cost them a lot less, I'm assuming. But I don't know how effective it was, and I haven't seen them do it a lot since, so probably not very, because the people that watch these shows, I mean, you really got to convince them to go out to their comic shop and try out a comic. Most of their viewers and movie watchers even don't read comics.
Yeah, you'd see it like in the behind the scene cuts and things like that. They'd have comic books.
We do have some Warner Brothers Discovery news, as they will not be hosting the virtual fan event for DC Fandome this year. I don't think that was a big surprise for anyone. In a statement, DC said, quote, "With the return of in-person events, Warner Brothers Discovery is excited to be able to engage with our fans live at numerous Comic-Cons around the world and will not be scheduling DC Fandome for 2022, end quote. So the online convention first launched back in August of 2020, and it was meant to take place of in-person events in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. So currently, DC is slated to attend New York Comic-Con next month, where they expect to, if they announce any other projects, they'll do it at Comic-Con. I don't expect them to. I think they're just going to keep promoting the things that they have coming up in the book and film and TV division. But it makes sense to me. A fandom is probably another expense. And what are they really going to promote, Bobby? Black Adam a little bit more? The Flash? There's not really a lot out there right now.
Yeah, there's nothing to promote. They won't even promote the Flash because of the issues that it's going through right now. Like, it'd be Black Adam and then probably Shazam. And of course, you'd have Rock there, so that's your attendance bringer. And then they can talk about Gotham Knights because it's about to release in a month and a half. So those are the two temples. They could go in and talk about more of Harley Quinn and the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, but that got delayed a year already, and it's unknown when it's going to release next year. So they could do some updates on that. But there's nothing other than that. Like Harley Quinn, the new season that's coming up, give us a new trailer or some tidbits for Peacemaker Season 2. Like stuff that's not relevant. And the only thing that's going to be relevant that people somewhat care about is Black Adam, just because The Rock's in it. Doesn't mean it's going to be a good movie, but obviously they're putting a lot of stake in it.
It'd be the shortest DC fandom, that's for sure. Like there'd be nothing.
They're not going to talk about comics. Like they never do, and they're not going to. So why waste all this time on nothing to really talk about and spread out all this time just to focus on certain things?
If anything, late next year, I expect more of the type of, okay, here at this convention, we're going to announce this. And I haven't looked up when San Diego Comic-Con is next year. If it's in the earlier part of the year, I don't know if they'll announce a whole lot. I could be wrong. Maybe they'll announce, they have to announce some more stuff after Flash next year. So we're definitely going to see what's coming beyond the Blue Beetle film if that doesn't get canceled. But what's beyond that one, we should be starting to see next year. But this year, I honestly don't think we're going to get any announcements. I don't think they're going to announce Zach being back this year. I think it's going to all wait till next year, and they're just going to play out the rest of 2022 with push Black Adam, push the holidays for whatever they want to push it, and then come back next year, early next year, push Shazam 2, push Aquaman 2, The Flash, and right in between there, that's when we'll start getting the rollouts on what comes after that.
Yeah, San Diego Comic-Con is always in June, so it's not going to happen until June next year. So it's almost mid-year. And with all these other delays and cancellations, like their slate's pretty empty. So it'll be interesting. If we get anything, it's going to be new announcements for new things that we haven't heard of. And I think the one that we've heard the least of, I mean, you've heard of it because you're in the loop on a lot of those things, but the Blue Beetle film is the one that I think hasn't been mentioned the most. So either it gets axed along the way, or they go through with it and do different things to it. I actually think they're going to explore more of Batman's universe. I think we're going to get some other characters that we'll get movies from within Gotham. Hard to say who, but there's going to be other characters. That Gotham is so rich in different characters they can explore, whether it be hero or villain. So I think that's where they're going to go. We're going to get some new announcements from stuff like that. Or they just stay clean and don't explore any comic book movies. We'll see where they go.
The very least, we know for sure that the Trinity is going to get their own projects. That's one of the things Zaslav said, is he wants to focus on Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. So it sounds like they're going to get solo films of some sort. We don't know yet whether it's more sequels, whether it's Pattinson 2 or the Ben Affleck film. But as far as Man of Steel 2, maybe. Wonder Woman 3, probably happening, but I don't know if Patty Jenkins is going to be coming back at this point. But he does seem to really put a lot of weight on the Trinity, the big three. And I expect them to eventually announce solo projects for them. And hopefully next year, we'll find out what that is. And whoever is spearheading that will be running DC Films and the TV division. Previously, 2 weeks ago, we had talked about how Dan Lin was supposedly in talks, or at least in the running, but that no official talks had taken place. So it was kind of a little bit of non-news on it. But now, according to the Hollywood Reporter, Warner Brothers Discovery will not be signing on Dan Lin as the head of the DC Films and TV division. So some websites were trying to spin it as Dan Lin turned it down, and others are saying Warner Brothers Discovery was never considering Dan Lin at all, that this was just a non-news rumor that just popped up out of nowhere. Others are in between. The Hollywood Reporter itself said that they couldn't come in an agreement as far as his production company and what amount Warner Brothers Discovery would own, what stake they would own in that company. And I know fans on my end I was happy that Dan Lin was not signed on. And even though he would answer to Zaslav, so whatever he wants to do, I still didn't like him as a head of DC Films because of that interview he had a little while back where he did call the fan base bots, and you heard about that. And I was like, the guy doesn't seem like he likes us, so why have him on and as head of DC Films? He's going to begrudgingly carry out Zaslav's plans if they do involve Zach. So let's not have him on here. And maybe by the time this episode releases, they will announce who that new head is. But I'm just personally happy that it's not Dan Lin.
He was never announced, so it's all a mystery. Who knows what happened?
Do you think it's like a worthless role? Because it feels like Zaslav's just going to be like, okay, you're the role, but you got to bring out these movies right here that we have planned.
No, I don't think so. I think that's the expectation for putting someone in the spot so that there's accountability. How they do that job and as they run through it is a different story. Obviously, if they fall through, then the person will just get fired, whoever that person is. So I think the reason that it's being portrayed that way is because the expectations are high. You've got a merger, you've got all these cuts. Obviously Warner Brothers was bleeding money prior to all of this, and It's known now. So putting somebody in, they need to understand 100%, 120% what the heck's going on. And hey, this is your ship. You drive it. And if you have a problem and I don't like it, guess what? You're gone. So that's the expectation, I think, is what is being set. I don't think the ownership is going to meddle. I think it's going to be more of, okay, you're gone. Bye. Okay, who wants to step up and try this now?
Even though he said there's a 10-year plan, there's got to be a structure in place. Maybe he's saying, this is the plan. Can you do it? Maybe that's sort of that position.
It could be. Maybe the plan's already defined, or the person that's taking the position has to provide that plan that meets his expectations. Gotcha. I think it's a collaborative effort, honestly.
Okay.
I think Zaslav has an outline of an idea of what he wants to do. Not his solo idea. Obviously, he's talked to others. Mm-hmm. They have a general consensus idea what they want to do. Obviously, we've heard what that is. They want to mimic what Marvel's done. Mm-hmm. Sure, mimic that formula. It makes money, so go do it. It just needs to work. That's the problem. And the person they're bringing in probably doesn't fit that criteria. That this guy they possibly talked to probably didn't fit that criteria, or didn't have that full plan that they were expecting. So they're just moving on to the next candidate.
Whoever it ends up being, I was telling some of the coworkers, it feels like you could only go up from here. Like, how much worse can you screw up than where it's at now? It's like, look, if you just make one good decision, you and I could easily be like, hey, Bobby, Daniel, come, what do you guys have? What do you think? And I'd be like, well, let's make a Batman movie. Let's make a Superman movie. Let's make a Wonder Woman. And all three of those would make more money than Black Adam, than the Suicide Squad, probably than the Batman. And it's be like, oh shit, these guys are geniuses. But it's like, just make movies that have characters that people will come out and pay for. Not fucking Blue Beetle, not Batgirl. These characters are not characters that people are going to shell out $20 at the movie theater for.
No, you got to start with the recognizable characters first, and you start branching out. So that's what Marvel did. They started with Iron Man and Hulk. That started that universe, and they branched out from there. Are they branching a little too far now? Yeah, they are. But we all know why. They're doing it because they're skating around the universal rights on certain characters. And then obviously now they've found out that they can't replicate, even though they own it, they can't do things with the X-Men universe. So that's a whole nother hurdle that they need to come across. And that's why they established instead of going on with mutants, they've had to go on with the Inhumans, because the Inhumans is a loophole that they own properly and nobody else had rights to. So they've run into their own problems.
We will keep you up to date as things move along in the Warner Brothers Discovery camp. Hopefully they're able to find that head of DC Films and TV division this year. We will find out very soon, and we will share with you right here on the show. Let's head into the final portion of this week's episode. It is the Brocap Block. What's been making us broke since you last heard us, what we've been playing, reading, watching, where we've been going. The final portion of today's show. So, Bobby, you and I, we've gone through that Magic pre-release, of course, but on the personal side, what have you been up to?
Well, before we get to the most recent news, I did go to London, and I was in London for a week, and I was at the World Championships for Pokemon. So that was quite an experience. Earlier this year, I had literally just gotten off a plane and came on an episode after I got back from Germany for the European International Championships. So
yeah, I remember you sounded so tired, man.
I was tired. I went to bed and I was fine, but it's just that long flight. So the World Championships in London was an experience. I didn't get to tour London too much, which was a shame. I had plans originally to do so. I was supposed to extend and stay there for about 2 weeks total. It's a short boat ride over to Paris. We were going to try to go to Paris. My wife was supposed to come with me, but due to some family problems, she wasn't able to go. And then the price of the ticket for her, because she has to pay for hers, Pokemon sponsors me. The ticket was like almost $2,000, so she decided to stay back. And then I just ended up going for just the week, because it is pricey to stay out there. Obviously, I have to pay beyond the week that Pokemon puts me there. It's before or after, but my flight is covered no matter where I plan it. So that's the cool part. Was going to go to Paris, was going to visit some cool spots throughout England and the UK, and just didn't get to. Unfortunately, when I got there, strict timeline, I had some free time the first day I got there, but didn't get to go that far, and it got late. And then after that, unfortunately, there was a strike. A lot of the workers went on strike for the trains and subways. They call them the tube over there. So it made travel very difficult. So even the nights that I had time, I just wasn't able to move around as easily. I didn't want to pay for a cab or more. But the event itself was amazing. It's a very, very large and expensive production. I have never been a part of a tournament that large, that big. So many people. There was just over 2,000, close to 3,000 different participants in the tournament total. There was the World Championships for 5 different games, because they had Pokemon Trading Card Game, they had Pokken Tournament, DX, and then they had Pokemon Go, and then Pokemon Sword and Shield for VGC, and I'm missing a game. Oh, the Pokemon Unite. So all those games were represented and all crowned champions. And most of them had age divisions as well. So junior, senior, master. So it's just so many people all at once. If anybody has the time and haven't checked it out yet, check out the Pokemon streams on their VODs now on YouTube and Twitch. You can just check out the production value. It's insane. The stage alone was gorgeous. So the event ran smooth. I'd been to Worlds before, but the Worlds previous were always in the US. So having to go to London for this one was a whole different thing to take in. Traveling so far and in a foreign country. And I've never been to England before, so that was cool. Met a lot of people, saw a lot of people I've seen throughout the years, and it was an awesome time. So if anybody gets a chance to visit the World Championships as a spectator, or if you're lucky enough to qualify and play, it's a heck of an experience. I came back, they shower us with gifts. Not only did they pay for me to go there, like I get all sorts of swag. So I've got these things that'll last me a lifetime, and some of them are highly collectible, some are worth a lot of money. So it's neat, just adding to the stash of collectibles that I have.
I shared here on the show how you were going to London to judge for Pokemon Worlds. And did you have any interesting calls that came up while at Worlds or anything that was a little questionable? Any controversies on some of the players? I know I think I heard a little bit of that. Maybe there's always cheating at every event, but was there anything big otherwise like that was kind of note?
Yeah, I think the most difficult thing in that environment, and I've experienced it before, but this one, for some reason, was even more cumbersome with the translations, having to have translators. There was a lot of Japanese players that made it to the World Championships this year. Since I've dealt with it before, it's not difficult. You just have to be extremely patient, because our intuition is to start talking. And when you're talking, well, the person that can't understand you is naturally not going to understand you. The problem is they're not going to tell you they can't understand you. They're just going to politely sit there and listen to you and not understand you. So what we're taught is, keep it short, use hand gestures, try to use motions and point to things. But first of all, we have to cut conversation and not help or put the English, if there's an English speaker in that conversation, like let's say the other player is English and or speaks and understands English, but the other person's Japanese. You don't want the Japanese player to feel slighted because the other person can understand what I am saying, for instance. So we have to remain impartial, of course. So it's like, I'll tell them to hold, I'll use hand gestures, and then, we have a call system to call translators. We have to wait. So sometimes it takes a few minutes. And because it was so rampant that week, I mean, the translators did a bang up job, and they were running around like crazy. And I get the person over, and then it's a situation where I have to then break up my sentences to let the translator translate. And as I'm talking, I have to look at both players because I need to make sure the English speaker understands me as well. And then, I'm talking to the player that doesn't speak English, but I have to make sure that they understand that the message is coming from me. The translator's there just translating the words. So it's a different type of situation when you actually have to have somebody translate issues for you when you're being very direct, concise, and in these situations making a ruling. Like, they may not be happy with the ruling, so it's hard to discuss it straight with them, like even if they argue, because you're talking through a translator. So it creates an interesting dynamic that I think a lot of people aren't used to. It's different than when you go to the coffee shop and you're trying to have somebody translate a word or two. That's different. This is direct conflict that you're dealing with, or direct questions involving conflict, and having the translator there is just it feels kind of weird. But looking at the player, you see them understand what the translator's saying, and good on these translators, like they understand the game as well. So it's not like some of the things they're talking about are foreign, because we have to use a lot of game jargon to get our message across, like, oh, these cards, you dealt 3 and you did pick up 4, or things like that. Definitely an experience. I think that was the most interesting things that happened throughout the week, was all the translator interactions. I think I had one, it was very unique. I had a Japanese player and a Chinese player. So I had to have 2 different translators while I spoke English, and the 2 translators had to talk to each player. So that one is extremely diverse, because neither one of them can understand me in English. So I have to position myself in between them so that they can see me while I'm talking and gesturing, so that both understand as the translator's delivering that message to them. So that in itself was unique. As far as like interesting calls, like, I'm not going to tell the whole story because it's a long story, but there was a top table. I think I was sitting at table 6 or 7 in the last round of day 2. And the winner of this match was going to go on to Top Cut to participate in the World Championships. Like, they would be top 9 in the world, right? And they made a gentleman's agreement, and the match was over. They went into time. They were tied 1-1. And the agreement was whoever's up on game clearly gets to win, but they were going to discuss it. As a judge, we're not allowed to interfere in those quote unquote agreements. Those are only between the players. And whether somebody wants to lie or not agree to it or hold up that bargain at the end is only up to the players. And if they want to complain about it, there's literally nothing we can do.
Right.
So those things exist, and we hear them and we understand them, but we're not allowed to interfere with them or have a say. And the other player in this situation clearly lost, and based on the game state of the agreement, and he wouldn't give him the win. So it was very interesting to watch that go down, because I had to sit there the entire time. They had to move it, so I gave him the match slip, and unfortunately the guy put a tie. So that pushed them both out of top 8 contention, and they both made top 16 for prizing. in placement, but they didn't advance to the top cut. So unfortunately, it's a very difficult situation to watch, but that's some of the intense things that happen at the World Championships.
So otherwise, one of that one player could have made it to top cut, is what you're saying, but the other one held him from that.
Oh yeah, the other player was clear in the right. Like he was arguing emphatically. Basically, he was using. He had his board state set up to win that game. He had already knocked out his opposing player. Was playing with a deck with Palkia and Inteleon engine, and he had his main attacker. It was a counter attacker, but it worked in his instance was it was a Jolteon from Vivid Voltage, and it essentially locks out your opponent from using any water Pokemon abilities. Well, the opponent that we're talking about that was doing well, his main attacker in the deck, he teched it in. It was a rogue deck. He was actually using the Radiant Charizard from Pokemon Go. Well, he had built up the engine and then actually knocked out the Jolteon. Well, because the Jolteon was gone, there was nothing else to stop that Charizard from attacking every single turn and just literally taking out every Pokemon until he wins. Mm-hmm. And that was the argument that he had. He's like, look, I took out your Jolteon. Look, here's the top 6 cards of my deck. I was going to draw into this. Like, I have the game. There's no chance that you can't recover. Your Jolteon's out. This Charizard's built up. I'm going to keep attacking you every turn and get rid of every Pokemon you put up there. And of course, this guy on the other hand, he's like, nah, man, I can't. He wanted to be the dick, and he was. He was the dick. He did not concede. He signed it tie and submitted it. And of course, the other player was pissed, but it pushes them both out of top 8 now instead of one person going to top 8. The right gamesmanship thing to do, especially in that situation as an outsider, not a judge, is you concede. If you can't possibly win based on what evidence is there in front of you, you concede. That's good gamesmanship. Unfortunately, this guy, I think he was from Poland or Switzerland. He wasn't having it. He said no. So it was very unfortunate. The player that he did it to is very well known. He's been to every single world championship ever for Pokemon. He's a very good player. He's never won. He's been to the finals several times, but hasn't won. And to see that happen sucked because I think his deck would have done very well in top 8.
So what ended up being the top deck this year for Masters?
The top deck that won was it's Flying Pikachu V1. So it's a stall tactic deck, but it's got a mechanism there to pretty much slow down an opponent, and you pick away, and that's what it does. It won.
Any surprise showings that you were like, oh shit, I didn't think that deck would have made it this year, or anything that kind of came out of left field?
There was a couple of people playing the Reggie deck that's pretty popular. It's an extremely cheap deck to build. It's just some rares and commons that have all the Reggies. Regice, Regirock, Regieleki, Regidrago, and Registeel. It's a fun deck to play. It just didn't do that well, but I saw a bunch of them in day 2. I think the most surprising one to me, even though it didn't make top 8, was that situation I was just talking about. He was playing Radiant Charizard. It's just a good deck. I don't like Charizard, but that card's good. And it's a good surprise card to pretty much ruin a good meta call to ruin some other decks.
Well, that's good to hear. You can see the winning decks right now. Check it out on, as he said, YouTube or Twitch. And I hope you get your invite for next year, man. It sounds like you did a great job and that you had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I've already got 2 regionals coming up this year for the new season, for 2023 season. Next week I go to Baltimore for the first regional of the season. And then 2 weeks from there, I go to Peoria, Illinois, for another regional there. And I've been selected to be an assistant head judge at both, so that'll be interesting. Baltimore, I'm assistant head judge for the seniors division. And in Peoria, I'll be an assistant head judge for the masters division.
Awesome, man. Best of luck there, and we will cover it here on the show as you go and come back to each of these regionals. I had mentioned earlier that we just got through the latest Magic Dominaria pre-release, Pokemon Lost Origin as well, so we had back-to-back pre-releases at the card shop. But we did also have some time for fun with Scott. We ended up, in case you missed it on Twitter, we ended up going to Epcot. And the 3 of us went, after I listened to the Lazy Gaming Guys stream where they covered these different old Disney commercials and Disney features that they play in the hotels, and they were doing commentary over all of it. I'm like, man, I really miss going to Disney. So I put it out there. I'm like, why don't we all go to Disney? Do Epcot or Animal Kingdom or whatever? And it ended up planning out great. We're 2 weeks later, ended up being last week, I want to say. We went to Epcot, and it was during the Food and Wine Festival. So we got to go around the world and try out all this amazing, delicious food, go on a couple of rides, and get rained on for a little bit.
Typical Florida weather, get rained on in the afternoon. But it was a great day. It was fun.
Maybe it's because
Missing Julian, though.
Yeah, we are missing Julian. We do need him when he comes back down so that we can do more park hopping. And I don't know if it's age, but I was like, by the end of it, I'm like, man, my feet are killing me. Like, I've done Epcot around the world before. This is a little crazy. and I think it's age, man. I don't know if you guys felt the same, but I got home and I'm like, either they weren't tired or they're serious park goers or they were tired and they just didn't say anything. But my feet were destroyed by the end.
Yeah, I'm kind of used to it. I do a lot of walking, and I keep my good insoles on my shoes because of that. Now, it's possible that your shoes are giving out on you, not your feet. So you might need to take a look at that. And if you haven't gotten insoles, get some insoles. Your feet will thank you later. Now, I did have my own feet problem because of that so-called rain. I decided to walk across a open bridge in sideways rain, and my shoes got completely soaked. So my options were go home so I don't get blisters, or buy some flip-flops and trek on. Well, I decided to get the flip-flops and trek on. The problem that being there was that they were flat-footed and I need arch support. So we weren't out that much longer, I think 3 more hours, but that amount of walking destroyed one of my feet and my arches. So I was in pain when I got home. But luckily, woke up the next day and I was fine.
What was your favorite thing to eat at Epcot while we were there?
Probably the mac and cheese. The mac and cheese is dope.
Yeah, you had 2 of them, right? I mean, you've had all of them, but which one was your favorite flavor?
I like the cowboy one or whatever it was called. That was a good mixture of mac and cheese with other things.
My favorite part was watching Scott when he got to Japan, like get all the food there at the little cart, go into the Japanese market, and then fill up his basket full of Japanese snacks and rice crackers, desserts, all kinds of candy. He had that fucking thing full. He went nuts in Japan.
Food,
yeah.
Food.
And I expected that. I was like, let's get ready. As soon as we get to Japan, he's gonna go nuts and he's gonna drop all this money. And $60 later, sure enough.
And you guys got to go on Ratatouille. And while you guys were on Ratatouille, I went into Guardians of the Galaxy Rewind. I think that's what it's called, or something Rewind. I don't know, whatever. Pretty cool ride. I enjoyed it. I was glad I was able to get into the virtual queue for that and ride it finally. Then we went over to Hollywood and got on to Rise of the Resistance, which none of us had been on. So that one I've been after for years and finally was able to go on it. That's a very interesting ride. Now I know why it breaks all the time.
That was a pretty big deal because you guys were telling me that 1, you hadn't been on it, and 2, that normally the lines are absolutely insane. So at Disney, you got to do these park hopper reservations hours ahead of time, and if you don't get it, they fill up right away. And that's when Scott or somebody looked up the times for those rides at Disney's Hollywood Studios, and it was like 20-minute wait, 5-minute wait, walk-on wait, and it's like, this is not something we normally see. So you were parked on that side anyway, so we drove over to Hollywood Studios, went inside, and like you mentioned, we rode, 3 rides within an hour and a half or 2?
Yeah, and most importantly, all of you listening that are familiar with Rise of the Resistance, that thing said 20 minutes. We walked on. There was no line. It was amazing. So all of you listening that have been to Rise and witnessed the ridiculous lines, yes, we walked onto that ride, and it was amazing.
And that's the latest Star Wars ride, right?
Yeah, that's the newest one. That's the big one. And we also walked on to Smuggler's Run. That wasn't a wait either. So it was awesome.
And this is the same portion of the park at Hollywood Studios that you may have seen online of. It's got the Star Wars Land portion to it. It's the latest thing on there. The ones that some of these bloggers were whining. I don't know if you saw that guy on Collider or something a few years ago where he didn't get invited to the premiere of that land. And he was like, I've been shilling Star Wars for the last 5 years just to not get a fucking invite. And it's like, so that's how this goes.
Yeah. It's also the area where they just opened that hotel earlier this year. So I forgot the name of it.
The controversial one.
Yeah, the big, hotel that's there now that opens up into the land. Very unique experience. So it's expensive, but it's pricey for a reason. There's a lot of cool things that are included with that ticket price. So everybody that's familiar with that, it's not just a hotel stay. There's a lot going on with that. Plus you have exclusive access to the park before anybody else, straight to the Star Wars area. So it's pretty cool. Not worth my money, at least now, but it's neat.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem is the price tag, even though, as you mentioned, they may come with things that are worth the price if you kind of price it out. For a lot of families, it's just too much. I have an insider that works at Disney, and they told me that those rooms are not getting booked and that it's just way too expensive for a lot of people. That the feedback that they've been getting from guests is that the amenities in the rooms and in the hotel do not equal that of a higher end for the price point, thousands of dollars, that they get the same stuff from one of their regular resorts at Disney. And it just doesn't, it's not worth the thousands of dollars that they ask for. And I don't know, they're going to have to, I guess, figure something out or just leave it for the premium guests. Cause I guess that could be a viable option for them. Just have a resort that's premium. I thought that the Swan and Dolphin was that for them, but it is a controversial one for that's, I know it's not succeeding as much as Disney would like.
Yeah, they'll tweak it over time, and with feedback they'll change it. What a lot of people need to realize, though, it's not a normal resort stay where you have a pool out back and a spa. Like, this is a very involved interactive experience, and you're immersed in what they're delivering to you, and that's what it is. There's a lot of activities that you do, but they're all themed as if you're in space. So some of that stuff's not for everybody, and it's not for every family. Yeah, it's going to keep some of the kids involved, but if the parents don't care too much, then yeah, they're going to get bored as heck. It's a waste of money. The super fans will go, and they may have different expectations, and some of that stuff is catered to children. Well, maybe they're not interested in some of that stuff. So, there's a lot of different things that you get to do that cast take you through, and they're all interactive experiences built into your day. And that's what some people need to realize. It's not you just go out to the park and you stay at the hotel. Yeah, you can do that. But if you want to get your money's worth, you have to take part in all the different things that they have set up for you.
One of my favorite parts of going to Disney with you guys was seeing, because I wasn't aware of what you guys were doing. I just saw you guys get in line in Star Wars Land. And you were in line to get this gift card that is metallic and it's got a serial number, I think, on it. And it's Star Wars themed. And you both came out with these little metallic gift cards for Disney. And Scott's like, yep, I've got them. And he was happy as can be. And I'm like, are they charging for those? And he's like, it's $100 minimum and then $4.99. I'm like, there you go. Fucking geniuses. I would have said they better be charging for that shit. And sure enough, they did. $5 extra, $100 gift certificate on your card, and you get to keep it. And like you were showing, you can scan it. For hardcore Star Wars fans, it's a big deal. And I can see that. Like for me, I'm seeing it on the outside. I'm like, these fucking geniuses at Disney, like they're making an extra $5 out of these cards. But it also made me realize, and I told you this during the park, I'm like, Star Wars fans have it good, man. Like I know the content is whatever. Some people don't like it currently, but if you are looking to immerse yourself into a world, I was in the middle of Star Wars Land. And I'm not a big fan, but I was like, imagine if this were, I don't know, Batman the Animated Series Land or Justice League Land, whatever. Like Star Wars fans have that now. Like it's a fucking huge deal. They have it made, man.
And being there, you are immersed, right? You felt like you were in a different place. You don't realize you're at Disney, or you're right off. Like that outer wall right there is literally right next to one of the big highways there. You don't even notice it. They build up the backdrop so high, and they have all the sounds plugged in there and everything going on. There's so many different interactive things to do. You don't even realize where you're at. You're like, you feel immersed, right?
I worked at Disney, so I don't. But
yeah, that ruins the experience. Yeah,
yeah,
you're right. Yeah. I forgot about that.
But I can see like adults or kids, absolutely. They probably don't even think about it. They're like, I'm in Star Wars Land. I'm in Star Wars.
Plus, you saw what I was doing with my phone. I was scanning those crates. Like, there's all sorts of different mini games you can play and collect things digitally. So it's very interactive, the whole area.
Yeah, that's another thing I noticed. They have that. They have the toy section where you can build your own droid. There was all kinds of stuff. This is not me like praise or like shilling for them. This is literally what I saw. I'm like, they're making a lot of money from these Star Wars fans, and for good reason, because they have shit in here that if I were a Star Wars fan, that thing would be cool. If I were a Star Wars fan, making a giant ass lightsaber would be amazing. Like, obviously I'm not, so I didn't partake, but I'm like, man, this shit is here for the fans.
Yep, they have that spot where you can build your lightsaber. It costs like $200 with a reservation, and it's an interactive experience. You get to make it from the different parts you choose, and it takes I think it's like 30 minutes to do it, but you get to keep the lightsaber after you build it. So that's what you saw everybody walking around with those and taking pictures and stuff. It's very, very thematic and immersible. Very genius idea on their part. So that's bankrolling over there in that area. And back to the gift card. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a little metal gift card. It used to be $50 to load on it with the $5 fee. Well, now they increased it to $100, which who cares? It's fine. Next time I go back for Food and Wine, I'm just going to use it to buy Food and Wine stuff. It's usable at any Disney park for anything they sell, all merchandise and food, beverage, restaurant. And it's reloadable. So it's something I can just keep reusing. And it's a neat little trinket that's collectible at the same time.
Got it. So we got Pokemon Worlds down. We got our Disney trip down. Anything else that you wanted to cover? I know I briefly touched on TCG a little bit, but I don't know if you wanted to expand on that or anything else.
Magic pre-release is Magic pre-release. You got to witness a weak one. It wasn't as busy as it normally is, but we'll see how the next one goes. And that's some of the madness that comes with those events. Pokemon was pretty straightforward. It took an hour and it was gone. Too easy. And then as far as me personally, like I've been trying to catch up on some shows. I'm almost done with Narcos Mexico. I'm on the last season, so I'll finish that up. I'm very intrigued how they've been able to tie the two shows together. And I didn't even realize it, but in Narcos Mexico, you're kind of seeing the birth of Guzman, which was El Chapo. So I didn't even realize that he was in the show until they started finally calling him by that nickname. I was like, holy crap, his last name, he is Joaquin Guzman. I didn't, because they kept saying Joaquin. And they finally called him El Chapo one day. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is actually the birth of his rise. So it's really cool. And then the fact that they use the same actors from Narcos and the shows used in timeline run together, but they were filmed opposite. Like Narcos happened first for 3 years, and then after Narcos, they started Narcos Mexico for 3 years. So they happened apart from each other. But the writer did both of them, so he lined them up so that they're tangential and they cross paths a lot, because obviously with the Colombian cartel, El Medellin and the Cali cartel over in Colombia, those are the big ones. And the El Medellin cartel was where, I forgot what they called him. Anyways, Pablo Escobar was in Colombia, and then obviously his fall then created the Cali cartel. Well, the Cali cartel was more dealing with Mexico and the Sinaloa cartel. And that's what Narcos Mexico focuses on. But they bring in those same actors fulfilling those same roles when they had those conversations, when they set up those trade routes, when they set up those deals. So it's pretty cool to see that happen as you already watch Narcos. And it's like, oh, that's that guy. He's from, this. And you realize like, oh, wow, actually Narcos is happening at the same time as this. This is just Narcos Mexico. So it's this neat illusion that they've set up. And I like that. It's the show's actually pretty good.
It sounds like you love Narcos, because I'm like, you should start a Narcos podcast with how much you know about it.
Yeah, Narcos had Pedro Pascal. He was in that one.
Oh, okay.
And then Narcos Mexico has Diego Luna, because he plays the main guy from the Sinaloa cartel. And then the other actor that's in that show is Luis. He's in the Marvel movies now. He's a comedian, funny actor. He was in Chips. Man, I can't remember his name.
It's not Luis Guzman, right?
No, not Luis Guzman. He's a funny guy. He was in Ant-Man, and then he was also in...
that guy. I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I don't like him.
Is it Luis? I forget his name. Anyway, funny guy, but he obviously didn't do a comedy role in this show. He played the DEA agent that was killed by the Mexican cartel. So that pretty much sets up... It was the end of Narcos, but then set up the whole downfall of the Mexican cartels, because the U.S. was after them after this guy ordered the hit job on the DEA agent. So that's what's cool, is like there's some real factual events that happen in here, like the DEA agent, the names of the players and all these cartels and the drug runners.
The way you've been hyping up Narcos, man, it sounds like that should get on my list at some point. It's all on Netflix, right?
It's all on Netflix. And I think, I don't know how you feel about it. There's a lot of it that's all in Spanish. Actually, man, if you were to take all of it, I think like 75 to 80% of those shows are all in Spanish. So I don't know how you feel about listening to Spanish, but they automatically put the English subtitles on there.
Sure.
So I don't know if you'll read them or you just naturally listen to it and understand it. But I don't know how that'll sway you when watching that. But there's so much Spanish because in Colombia they speak Spanish and they didn't try to sugarcoat it by them speaking English. They actually had everybody speak Spanish. And then the same thing with the Narcos Mexico. In Mexico, they all speak Spanish. The only English you encounter is with the U.S. DEA agents that are involved, and when they're intermingling, you hear their English conversations. But other than that, it's all in Spanish.
Yeah, the only time that it takes me out of it is when either the actor is not a native Spanish speaker but happens to be Latino or Latina. For example, in The Tax Collector, David Ayer's film, I liked it. I enjoyed it. I own it. But the main guy, it sounds like he definitely did not have a native accent to LA, I guess I could say. Like he kind of had like this American accent as he was speaking English as he was speaking Spanish to these other gangsters. So to me, like as a Spanish speaker, I'm like, oh, okay, this wouldn't fly. Like he doesn't belong in this world is what I was kind of seeing. So that took me out of it. Or when they have an accent that's Puerto Rican or Cuban or from another region, but they're supposedly Mexican. That's another thing that throws me off because it's like, okay, you're not. You know Spanish, you're speaking it well, but you have these dialects or accents that are from these other countries. But outside of that, it sounds like they did a professional job on this one where they're probably all native Spanish speakers, Mexican straight up. I know Diego Luna is. He was a Mexican actor before he moved down over to Hollywood and did more there. And I think that I've heard Pedro speak Spanish and he speaks it natively from what I've heard. So it sounds like they at least nailed that part of it. Maybe the minor roles might stick out, but yeah, usually I don't have an issue with hearing it.
Yeah. Pedro barely used Spanish because he was an English DEA agent. Sometimes when he was encountering the Colombians, he would speak Spanish, and you could tell he could speak Spanish naturally. All the other actors that they had in the show that play all these different roles in the cartels, like they're naturally Spanish. You can tell, like they look Hispanic. They're all Spanish. So I think that added to the value is by them casting specific people that were not pretending to speak Spanish just because they know Spanish, and not like it's hard to see a plain white dude speak Spanish. Like it kind of removes you from the experience. But when you got all these brown people, for lack of a better term, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Speaking Spanish.
We're both brown.
Yeah. Speaking Spanish, it kind of makes you feel like, okay, well, they fit. They're there. And that's the actual way that they would speak. There's a lot of slang. You can tell. Like I understand some Spanish. The amount of times that you hear fuck and it's said differently is hilarious. Yeah. Because the way they say it and how you say it and what term you're using, it changes the way that it's said and pronounced. So when you're reading it and hearing it, for me, because I don't understand it fluently like you do, it's funny because like he said that differently, but he said the same. It's so funny. Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes they'll just translate it all as fuck, but it's like, no, that's a different curse, but there's no real way to translate it right. Yeah. Right, like
it's slang.
I've had like Kelly ask me, well, what's that mean? And even regular words, I'll be like, okay, we don't really have a term for it in English, but in Spanish, this is kind of how I would translate it best for you. There's a lot of personification in the words when I try to translate it into English, where English is very set in like very few things have a personification as far as like male, female, but in Spanish, there's a lot of male, female, which also gives it another layer. Yes. In the language, because now you can
possessive.
Yes, you can add possessive. There's also a bit of emotion too when you attach it to certain items. So that's one of the things that I have to like translate in a way to Kelly to like, well, this means this, but little male glass, things like that. Like, so it's kind of fun doing it that way.
And inflection matters too. So.
Yeah. Well, on my end, I have been watching, actually this morning, Kelly and I watched some Netflix as Bee and Puppy Cat had its Netflix premiere. That's a show that Kelly and I kickstarted back. It's gotta be getting close to 10 years. Like we talked about it here on the show many years ago, reading the comic book and the cartoon. It was a Kickstarter that got turned into a web series. The web series then, there was a promise of a season 2. It was kind of in limbo. Then they got the Netflix contract back in 2019, I think, 2017 maybe. And then, of course, COVID backed things up by a few years. And now we have Bee and Puppy Cat on Netflix. The problem is this show, since it was a Kickstarter cartoon first, the quality is very different than what you see on Netflix. So what they ended up doing is they remade a couple of episodes. Definitely the first episode they remade for Netflix with higher animation, new voice acting, and then same actors, but they re-recorded their lines. And then they did a recap couple of episodes of the rest of the season, and then now they're doing season 2 that's already up there. So you get the original story. So it's kind of a little bit of a confusion as far as a fan, because I'm like, okay, if I want to watch the original cartoons, they're on YouTube. The ones on Netflix are remakes of those original cartoons plus new material. But it's good, man. If you are at all into Adventure Time or Bravest Warriors, it's got a lot of the same people that worked it under those animation studios in this. Federator did Bravest Warriors. They're still involved in the Netflix production. So if anyone out there is a fan of, again, Bravest Warriors especially, check out Bee and Puppy Cat on Netflix. I want to see more of it. It's not for everyone, but I do see it as a very entertaining cartoon just for Puppy Cat alone, because I have that emotional attachment to the Kickstarter, and now seeing them seemingly make it big on Netflix and get that big budget for these cartoons makes me happy to see.
That's pretty cool.
But outside of that, been watching a little bit of Arcane and been focusing on, as you and I went through it, the pre-releases. Made it for a very busy week. A lot more traffic than normal, especially with the Labor Day weekend. We had a lot of people here on Labor Day, so made it for a busy week, but definitely made it go by quick. But that was a very eventful week for us, and also a good amount of news this week. Very varied with video games, WBD, the film festival. And thank you, Bobby, for being a part of it and helping me co-host this week. Please let them know where they can find you to continue the conversation.
Of course, this was fun being here. Always love being here. And you can find me on Twitter. That's QBANSLIM, Cuban Slim. And you can also find me in our Discord. So check out the Discord. As I always say, everybody's got plenty of Discord servers they're in. Join ours, say hello, put us on mute. We won't be mad. That way you can peek in whenever you want. You can share things, talk about things. And we have a nice collector's corner if you collect things and you want to share those or see what we're sharing. We all have different types of collections that we share, and it's pretty cool. So check it out. Find us in Discord, or like I said, you can find me on Twitter.
You can find the link to everywhere you can find Bobby at the description of today's episode. Also, a link to Discord is always on every episode near the bottom. But if you would like to contribute to our show monetarily, head on over to patreon.com/thereasonsimebroke. Last month, we had a couple of declined cards. So if you've been on the fence on whether you want to back the show on Patreon, this would be a great month for it. That's once again, patreon.com/thereasonsimebroke. Why do it? You get your show, you get the episode early every single week, sometimes by up to 3 days, depending on how quickly I get the show edited. And also you get exclusive access to the Patreon-only Discord. Bobby was just talking about Discord. There's a Patreon Discord that you get access to at the minimum of $1 that you donate each month. So there's some perks on there that you can check out. And again, due to some declined cards, we could definitely use the help. But thank you so much for joining us again this year for sector number 525. I've been Daniel, joined by Bobby, and Broke at Core. All will be well.
All right, I got a question for you this week.
Oh, bring it on. Let's see.
So this is our last bit. So the Snyderverse is restored, and it goes on. Everybody's happy and excited. Zack Snyder is at the helm, and he's been given all these tools and, parameters, what everybody wanted, right? It's not perfect, but okay, it's there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the one caveat is that Zack announces plans for his next project. Let's say it involves Batman or it's a Trinity movie, whatever. However, unfortunately, Ben Affleck's not coming back. So he has to cast a new Batman. Who's that new Batman that you would be okay with?
Man, that's a tough one. I would love to... Josh Brolin, because he was originally up for the role.
You don't think he's too old now?
If Ben's not too... how much older is Josh Brolin than Ben Affleck? They're about the same age, aren't they?
I think Brolin's older than Affleck.
Let's take a look here. So he's 54. He's 4 years older than him.
Okay, so that's not that bad. Never mind. Are you okay with Thanos and Cable being a Batman?
Yeah, why not? We got Daredevil as Batman.
And George W. Bush.
That's true. He was Bush. We got Superman as Batman. Ben played Superman. He played Daredevil. I'm trying to think of another comic character he might have played in the past, but sure, bring it on. Josh Brolin's talented as hell, and he almost got the role. Jason Momoa tried out for the role, and Zach said he wasn't quite right for the role, but instead he offered him Aquaman, which is amazing. But that's my answer, Josh Brolin, man. Let's see it.